Hey, welcome everybody to the 49th edition of the EGlaze Chronicles. I am your host, EGlaze, and welcome to this beautiful show on Monday. And I have a special guest today. You know, I haven't heard from her in a while, but I get a chance. You know, she's been doing some things, and technically these last few weeks she's been grinding a few people. So we're gonna definitely talk about that. But I want you all to welcome my guest today. Sharon Reed. How are you, Sharon, today?
I mean, I'm doing great. Usually Mondays aren't beautiful, but if you say so. I did have a little bit of a bone to pick with you, but it's really not even fair. So I don't know if I should bring it up.
Go ahead. I mean, I'm you know.
I mean, why do I 49th show? I mean, it's a hell of an accomplishment. Okay, but
appreciate it.
You know, you could have had me on for Big 5-0. Okay, like those benchmark shows. Come on now.
I tried, Sharon. It didn't work out. People canceled on me. You were technically 50. A couple of people, I had you perfect. Then two people canceled on me. Then I had to fill in one, and I couldn't fill in the other. So I really wanted you for 50.
Okay.
But things happen. So
you're my man. I'm gonna let it go.
Let me actually just start off with, do you miss the desk?
Ooh, somebody asked me that just the other day. I'm so comfortable there. So I don't know if miss it is the right way to put it, because I still feel full with being able to choose what I do these days.
Right.
No, and I'm going to tell you why. My whole career, I love being like in the middle of the story.
Right.
I come alive for breaking news. Throw out the script and let's just talk to people right there, see and say. But when it comes to coronavirus, I gotta be honest with you, brother. That's not where I want to be. I have a daughter, my own health, my parents. It's not to say that you can't participate and do things the right way, but that would have been, I'm somebody, I was on the ground in Ferguson, did everything like that. But this unknown, this thing that you can't see, you can't feel until you feel it, unfortunately. No, thank you. No.
Has this time brought you and your daughter closer together, or has it
Woo!
We're close. There's a lot of time together.
Yeah. We're close. We're spending an awful lot of time together. We've always been super close. To the point where my daughter probably wishes I would get a little bit of a life. So do I sometimes. So we've always been close since before she was even born. You know what I mean? I just always, I can't imagine my life. I don't even remember my life before her. But being cooped up together, that's a special kind of love. That's a special kind of love, brother. And
very special.
Yes, it's brought us closer together. We've had to get creative. We've had to take time outs where you can go on upstairs. Where are you going? You're going downstairs? Then I'll be upstairs. And let's separate for a little while. Because it's real. Yeah. Okay? I can't imagine not that I don't want to get married, but I can't imagine if I had a husband in here too. Oh man. Yeah. And with her pets, you talking about a full house, Dr. Doolittle style. No.
What have you, since you've been away from the desk, what have you learned about yourself? With the quarantine and you not in front of the desk, what have you been learning about Sharon Reed during this time?
That's an interesting question. I think it's not so much that I learned it, but I remembered that I'm resilient, that I have a lot of things I'm passionate about, and that's awakened in me. As painful as some of this racial awakening for some Americans has been to sit and watch, I gotta tell you, it's been the most passionate time of my adult life to watch what's going on, and what we describe as that roller coaster ride, and the pain, the hurt, incident after incident, but at the same time understanding that this is definitely a time of change that we don't want to go back from. And so in many respects, I feel powerful because you don't have that filter. I can post what I want. I can interview who I want. I can do the projects that I want to do. And I love that. So I've mostly remembered that I'm resilient, and there's I used to tell my colleagues, there's a big world out there. You can look out the window, right? You can just kind of go over to the window and look out. I know you want to be mired in this, but there's a big world out there. And is true. And I just love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm at peace with that.
You sound freer, like you're freer, and
You think?
you've broken some few things, a few chains in out there. Because
Yeah.
I watch your interviews now. I can feel that passion. You always had passion in your interviews.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an unfiltered passion now. Is that a true statement?
I think it is true. And, it's also true that prior to being and doing my own thing and making my own decision to exit, I still was going to be me, you
Hmm.
know, and I've been like that my whole career. And I think we talked about it before. I'm going to win as me or lose as me. And so even when you work for somebody or one television station, I've always just wanted to just be authentic and tell it like it is and call it like I see it. Now that I am my own filter and my own news director and my own marketer, I mean, um, yeah, I would say that the reins are looser, but I'd like to think it's just a freer version of myself. That I hope that people saw me as somebody who definitely colored outside the lines, not in a way of self promotion, but just if that's what it called for. Um, and if I was going to face consequences for that, then I was just going to face consequences for that. But I always felt like I had a connection, and I still do, um, with the person on the other side of that screen, and knew not kind of, knew where their hearts and minds are too. Because I always felt like there was this relationship where very down to earth, very authentic, and every viewer mattered. You know what I mean? I still write everybody back, which can be a double-edged sword when you're talking about social media. Really?
Right.
I'm gonna have to
Right.
pause you. I'm gonna have to go ahead and pause you on that one. So yeah, I mean, it does feel good, and it feels good to be able to be safe and protective of my daughter and mother her as I would choose. Not that like I didn't have, my mom here, great nanny who's been with me for years and years, but I always wanted to be a mom. So as much as she needs to go upstairs and I need to go downstairs, there's nothing else I'd rather be. If I had to choose, obviously, mom, that's it. That fills me up. But I also think it's important to develop who you are. This is not just what I do, this is who I am. And that's like the best of both worlds.
I always said one thing about you is that you were able to live in the public privately. But I
Mhm.
feel like your daughter, when you finally, I can remember the Instagram days when she was always her back to the camera, but now you open up and let her see it, and she feel like she's growing up in front of so quickly in front of our faces. But what's the one thing that you want her to know about Sharon Reed? What's the
Oh,
one thing that you want her to say? That's my mommy, and she does this, she did this. Or what do you want her to know about you?
that's an interesting question too, because you know, when you work in the public eye, as you know, there's so much that's said about you, written about you. And I used to, God, it's probably been 15 years since I gave a damn. I'll be honest with you. But that wasn't always easy because I would say, ah, you feel the need to like punch these ghosts,
Mm,
whereas the people who know me, and I got a very tight inner circle, not
right.
because, I don't have options, but because that's just not what I'm looking to do. I never did believe, as tacky as it sounds, friends more the merrier. I always believe you have some quality people in your life that are real. And that's the kind of friend I try to be. So with my daughter, I remember talking to a friend of mine, and I brought up something that just wasn't fair and like doesn't have nothing to do with me. And I remember this was years ago, and she said to me, Sharon, she's gonna know exactly who you are because she's with you every second. And then like right there, it clicked. And I was like,
Right.
I don't want to censor my daughter about it. I want my daughter to know I'm real. I try to be decent, honest. I don't go after people, and I generally turn the other cheek when people come after me because I get what it's about. with my daughter, she should know that I make mistakes. I'm human. You know, she's got to respect me. But I just want her to know the truth. And I
Mhm.
learn every day more and more. Now, I can't believe she's 8.5 years old, that
Wow.
she knows exactly who her mother is. She knows exactly who her mother's not. So I feel good about that, you know. And it's a very freeing thing when you're not trying to censor your child. But it's the same thing about like the events that go on that we see. You know, my daughter will sit up here
Mhm.
and tell me Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? And I forget that we're
Right.
together so much. She hears a lot and she's very much a woke child. And I'm proud of that. And we have frank discussions. And maybe because she's an only child, you know, we were together so much. And mommy doesn't
Mm.
had many dates, so we're together even more. And so, yeah, what do I want her to know? Just that mom tried her best, and I want her to do the same. Do whatever you want, as
Right.
long as you don't hurt anybody. You reach what I hope is your potential, and whatever you choose to do, be the best. And that can mean a number of things, right? It could be the best for you. You could end up Tiger Woods, or just you reached your potential. You know what I mean? Just don't hurt people, and I'll support you. Now, she does often say, I want to be a waitress, and I love a waitress. I would prefer you go on and waitress, okay? But can you own the restaurant too? Could you maybe own a
Yeah.
restaurant? I
Waitress
want
at your restaurant.
Right. I'm
Gotcha.
just trying to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like we're
Gotcha.
entrepreneurs. We're trying to do this
Right.
thing. But you know,
Right. Right.
I'm gonna let you do you. Yeah, I know you like a lot of expensive things, so I'm just saying.
Yeah. Own it and waitress at the same time. I like
Thank
that. I
you.
like that.
That's
I
right.
like that. Let's jump into a few of these topics that I know you're deep into and understand. How do you feel this pandemic? I feel like it's been this scab that just won't heal
Ugh.
for our country, and the way our state is bickering back and forth between. Let me ask you this way: have you ever seen from a national, state, and local this much discourse in your time in the media? I know, it just looks like every level of government has issues. I mean, I know they've had issues, but it's a lot of bickering back and forth. We've got Cuomo done came into Georgia. Now we got, it just looks like all of this bickering. What are your thoughts about what's going on in these levels of government in this pandemic?
You know, it's so sick. America is sick. She's always been sick. As much as I love our country, and nobody better ever tell me to leave it, you go on and leave because I'm gonna keep trying to make her better. I'm just as American, maybe more than you, if you really want to break it down. So don't,
Yeah,
whatever.
put it out there like that.
But
Exactly.
America is so sick right now, and it makes me sad because, you know, from the highest office in the land, you say whatever you want, but I don't know of another president who you could question. Do you love America?
Hmm.
Do you love America? Do you love the American people? Right?
Right.
We can't find common ground on anything. And the truth is, we can, but we're choosing discourse. We're
Hmm.
choosing venom. We're choosing lies over truth. We're embracing lies over truth.
Hmm.
And at some point, people say, "Oh, well, it's already bubbled over." No, it's on a powerful simmer, like medium to medium high.
Hmm.
It can't keep going like this.
Right.
And now that we're just a couple months out from the election, and people think, "Oh, that's the benchmark." No, there's no guarantee that. First of all, everybody gets to vote and every vote's counted. So that's another thing. Okay,
True.
please vote
True.
early. Like I'm tired of telling you. And then the other part of it is, once a decision is rendered,
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that that may be just the beginning, if you know what I mean. So with the pandemic, I never thought America collectively would take the bait so easily.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
even my daughter at 8 years old knows when she's being manipulated or when there's an attempt to distract her. Ooh,
Mm.
she knows that. So it's so sad to me that we're sitting up here talking about masks, okay? That people are fighting, literally fighting for the right to die, literally fighting to say, well, I don't care about my fellow man. Literally picking and choosing what numbers they pull out of their whats to justify their position. When the truth is, one thing that we do know for sure is a whole lot more people have this virus than have been reported. I mean, that's
Yeah.
common sense because
Yeah.
you're not getting tested. You're not getting results. People died before we could get them tested. I mean, we can't dig up all the bodies, those who were buried. So
Right.
it's just so, so sad when they have, like CNN runs these couple times a day in memory of this or that person who passed from COVID. And it's so gross to me because when you're time, get out of here, man. These people should be here. And
Yeah.
it's really robbed the country and the world of what could be. When people die before they should, before their time, I don't know, they could cure cancer. They could, you know what I mean? Who
Right.
knows? Who
Right.
knows?
Right.
So I just think it's so savagery. It's just sick what's going on,
Right.
you know? And you could
Yeah.
say that about a number of things, including politics and the president peddling the racism. And it's very disheartening. But at the same time, again, that roller coaster is one of the most incredible times to be alive. We got to see Barack Obama, Black man, elected to the highest office in the land during our
Mhm.
lifetime. How are we so
Right.
lucky that this just got to
Right.
happen, right?
Right.
And at the same time, after seeing the horror of George Floyd and Michael Brown and Breonna Taylor and all of these matters that are still so unresolved,
Right.
it does seem like this time people won't uphill battle, yes. They won't die in vain. And there are white allies and good people who are saying, I just can't cop to this anymore. I can't be part of this. And
Right.
I do love being alive for that.
Right. Real quick, did you get a chance to meet CT and Vivian and John Lewis?
Oh, of course. And I know that, they weren't in their 20s, although all those pictures and memories we have live forever. One of the things that jumps out at me is just the peacefulness, the compassionate, the empathy, because I don't
Mhm.
know that us being so much younger, that I'll speak for me, I don't know that I'm capable of all that all the time. I mean, I'm certainly have empathy and compassion for others, and I'm not going to
Right.
do just anything,
Right.
but these guys were so special in that regard to not grow old and angry.
Right.
And I just think it's so incredible because,
Right.
we often hear nowadays with a new movement and young people ushering in, their brand of, we're not asking for anything, we're demanding it. And we're not going to sit up here and say this or that. We're not going to mince words. We said Black Lives Matter. We said
Right.
defund the police, so they're unapologetic. And I love it, right? You got to
Right.
pass the baton. But I was thinking the other day, well, when we first heard the news about John Lewis and CT, I was thinking to myself, you know, as much as I advocate for the youth, and I think you do have to shut up and listen, they're just as important as your wisdom and experience and your age. I started thinking about Andrew Young, who's still with us, thank God, and how some in that original civil rights generation that is leaving us have been told to go shut up sometimes, go sit down over there
Mhm.
sometimes by young people who, and I'm sure when Andy and CT and John Lewis and Martin, and they were, in the game fighting for what's right, their elders said, you better watch yourself. What are you doing now? Don't get entangled in this. The way
Right.
you're going about it, who knows, right? That though, I think we
Right.
can be confident about. And it just struck me that, you know what, we might want to revisit and listen a little bit. Not that the young people aren't doing a beautiful job. I support them all the way.
Right.
But I do think that the perfect hybrid is the blend of the ones that are left. The great Ambassador Young. It's good to just shut up and listen sometimes and get that reminder of how far we've come. Because a lot of times too, I think that the younger we are, we tend to say, well, I wouldn't have been putting up with that and slavery and Jim Crow. I would have done. Do you know how much strength and courage and ingenuity and everything else was required to just survive? Yeah, that's nothing to be ashamed of. We are from beautiful people of that survival mentality. And can you sit there on that bridge and have your skull cracked and forgive somebody all them decades later? Can you do that and still love and go on? And I mean, that man, he loved people.
Yeah.
John Lewis loved people, not black people, people.
It's a people person.
And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I'm sad. It makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
You know, makes you want to cry.
I love the way Barack put it. We're standing on their shoulders because of what they did for us. And it was a tough day for me. I know it's a tough day for everybody out there, because when we first heard what CT passed, it was like, wow. But to hear John later on was it was a tough one. But you know, I caution the young people, and I say this, I'm glad you brought that up. Be careful when you say you're not your ancestors, because those ancestors we had were some tough people, and they took a lot
That's all I'm saying.
to get us to this point. Just be careful when you say that.
That's all I'm saying. And I think that just like our parents were, you know, cautioned about, you know, Little Richard, rock and roll, whatever it was, Dirty Dancing. I felt the same way too. And you know, I'm kind of corny, but I like my rap music. But I remember telling my parents, my mom probably, you know, when they would say something negative about rap music.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago. You know, so I love the passing of the baton. And like I said, I think, and I felt the same way in newsrooms. You know, people always they forget where they came from, you know? Yeah. You were that young person who didn't know much, who was green, wet behind the ears. But I just always felt like you can be taught something by everybody. The elder, the 10-year vet, and the kid right out of school. Because they have a, you know, that you don't have either. And I just love that. You know, I never felt threatened by that. But a lot of people do. And I don't think it's a choice of either or. I think Andy Young can sit right at the shoulder of these courageous young men and women with Black Lives Matter and advise and counsel, not lecture. We're not talking about lecture, but respect one another. I just, that's what I think anyway.
Yes, that's awesome. I love the way you said that. I think, you know, this time it's funny to reflect. It's funny to sit here and see what they've done. And that picture they showed, we lost Dr. Lowry, Reverend Lowry earlier this year too. So just to see the ugliness of 2020, as they say, but it's good to remember what we've done and things of that nature. So it's different. Yeah. Is the media what's the agenda of the media these days? I mean, you're fresh out of it. Are we missing a point? Is it more of telling a story or reporting a story? I can't tell the difference today. Like you said, CNN putting up this and that, and you know, we talk about Fox and all these channels, but what is the purpose of media today?
Well, you know, I have strong feelings. Number one, I'm still part of the media. And I say that because there's a general disrespect of, and I never felt this way, of your everyday, anybody who has an iPhone is a reporter. Look what the hell they're documenting, man. Right. They are on the front lines documenting these things. Right. They're documenting George Floyd's death. Thank God they're doing that. So I always have respect for reporters that are anywhere and everywhere. And you know how I feel. It's a blue collar profession, but there's a whole lot of people who don't necessarily have life context or life experience outside of their own. And it's this sorority mentality, and it really sucks because you're not seeing a whole nother level, right? You're not, it's like somebody, I can't tell you how many times people have come up to me, white people, and maybe some white gentleman said, "You're the prettiest black girl I've ever seen." And so meant as an absolute compliment. But right there, you ain't about to call me other, okay? Now, either I'm beautiful or I'm not.
Right.
And you don't even realize what you just did. And it's demeaning and it's disrespectful. And so when we think about, is the media telling the story or reporting the story? You know, at the end of the day, this whole thing, this crap that is peddled by the media about objectivity is just that. Objective is what you see through these lenses and what you see through yours. And you can't be in my body. You don't know what I see. We have a common bond in the fact that we are both Black in America, but you've never been a woman. You didn't grow up where I grew up. You didn't go to school where I went to school. You've never had a baby, the whole thing. And so I find myself just watching as an observer and wondering when we're going to own that. I don't have to be objective. Fair, right? And fair doesn't mean that I need to interview John Lewis over here and then go interview a racist over there. That's not being fair. That's not being appropriate. It took us how many years to just tell the truth about what President Trump was doing? He was lying. That's not being disrespectful. What's disrespectful of the highest office in the land is the person who's occupying it and not doing and saying truthful things. So I do tend to think that just like there is this awakening, reckoning in America, so too the media. Instantly, we can hold them accountable. And we should, right? Nobody's perfect, but I remember it was, I don't know, last week, the week before, they all run together when you're trapped in the house.
Yeah.
But Mayor Bottoms announced that she was COVID positive. AJC runs a story about her announcement immediately, which she disputes, says that she knew something or a possibility of the diagnosis and was at the podium, you know, potentially infecting others. And like I said, she disputes that. That's not her timeline, and perhaps there was a misunderstanding. But what really ticked me off about the article, and there was about 2, 3, 4 names on the byline, was towards the end of it, they put in there, she's got to comply with, you know, contact tracing health department as part of Kemp's order. And if she doesn't do it, it's considered a, you know, misdemeanor. Are you ignorant? Are you ignorant? Why are you even broaching the subject of criminality? Look, that's factually true. That's what the order said. If you don't, well, why are you doing that? Why are you taking a city mayor who, to as far as I know, I don't think she's ever committed a crime. Do you? I don't even know if the woman's got a traffic ticket. Why are you writing that? And I don't even think those reporters who put that piece together even realized that microaggression, that disgustingness, right? I don't even think they realized it. And what ticks me off even more is, because this is how newsrooms are built, where's the editor? Nobody flagged that? That went straight. I can't tell you how many times I had to be the last line of defense to the viewer, right? To keep from giving them this nastiness, you got to be the one that says, I'm not going to say that police are looking for a black man. Why would I say that? Why would I say that? Okay.
Right.
You know, so I just skip over that word because that's not proper. That's improper, unless it's, as you know, a full vetted description that's going to help people catch the killer. Okay. And we don't do that for white people. So I think the media has to expand its view. I like that Joy is, in prime time. I have some thoughts about recent hires and what they really intended to do had America not suddenly had this awakening. They had somebody sitting in the wings for that spot. That's just me. And it wasn't her. But I like that by any means, she's there. And I support that. She's more than qualified. And I just think that the more we hold the media accountable, we hold the police accountable, we hold the government accountable. I just did those 2 interviews with the district attorney, the sitting one in Fulton County, Paul Howard, and Fani Willis, who wants that job. And what people don't realize is, yes, Black and brown people are dying at the hands of police. At the same time, people don't understand how much power these district attorneys have. It's everything. It's everything.
Right.
They can get up before the cameras or not say a word. What did the first prosecutor do with George Floyd? And another thing people aren't looking at is these coroners, right? Who do they work for? Yeah. What is this sudden, where they're saying people just die suddenly? It might be because you had your foot on my neck. The coroner's going to side with what he's told to do, okay? And all these positions, district attorney, sheriffs don't have any boss. The sheriff is king. They collect taxes. They can arrest. They can do whatever. You can't do anything to the sheriff. And they got real history. Know your history about what a sheriff in America really is. Not disparaging, great ones out there. And there's some real, a pyros, however you say it, out in Arizona. So I just think that we have to look into everything and really do our work, because everybody should be held accountable. Everybody. And that includes your neighbors, your friends. And if you can't hold one of your white friends accountable and say, let me have an honest conversation with you, then that may not be your friend, might be your acquaintance, right? So the media, like anything else, wants to sit up and run this and that. Well, let me see. Why Frederica Whipple, I love her. She's great. And maybe she wants to be on the weekends. But, not to say that there aren't other people who are qualified, who occupy certain jobs. But I know how that game works. And I just think that when you open up the playing field, you start to notice a whole lot.
First, let me give a shout out to everybody who's listening. Thank y'all. JJ Leverett, Dr. Jillian Watley said he's a big fan of yours. Eddie Powell and Mark Melvin says hello. Mark.
Hello.
Let me ask you this. Did you choose to interview these? I think it's interesting you went for the DAs, Paul Howard and Fani Willis, to interview them. I think those were, if y'all haven't seen Sharon's interviews, go watch it before you vote and take what you want from it. I thought you didn't let them off the hook, which I appreciate. But why that race? Why did you choose that race to interview? I thought it was interesting. I think Paul's been doing this for a long time. Paul's been here since I've been here.
23 years.
Like you said, 23 years. But like you said, to interview both of them, why was that important for you to get those interviews?
I mean, I think because, and again, there should be focus on the police and what's going on here, okay? And Paul entering the national spotlight and having the press conference and charging the officers, all that's in play. But I think sometimes we forget who holds the power. If you become the Fulton County DA, do you know how much power you wield? It's enormous. It's enormous. So when you hear Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms say, I want these other 43 use of force cases that have been sitting on your desk for X amount of years cleared. What about those? She can't make the sitting DA in Fulton County clear those. Now, Paul Howard, if you watch the interview, says, okay, there's a reason they're still sitting on my desk, and it has to do with the lack of cooperation from the police and body cams being turned off. He said a lot. Again, I direct you to the interview because it's not about my interpretation of it. Bonnie Willis would tell you, no, that they could have been cleared. And I gotta tell you, I never met her before. She's very impressive. And I wanted to, and there's somebody who clapped back and said on my social, they didn't clap too hard. And I felt the need to like give them a mini clap back. They said, I was easy on Paul and hard on her. And then I rewatched the interviews. I don't know that I was easy on him. I asked him some very tough questions. And his demeanor was less fiery and more resigned, I think, than hers. And, I thrive on fiery. I love fire. So I really enjoyed this heavyweight bout, this boxing match with her. And I do think on balance, I was tougher in the interview with her. And I'm not even going to say that that was not deliberate. Okay. We'll talk about objectivity here. Let's be honest. I happen to think that when you are the challenger, and again, this is a public job, it doesn't belong to, Paul Howard, but he's held the job for nearly a quarter century. If you want to take it, take it. But you need to take it. And so I had a lot of questions for her because on the outside looking in, and yes, she was in that prosecutor office for 16 years, right? So she knows her way around the courtroom. She's an excellent, skilled trial attorney. If she's coming after you, you're done, okay? That said, it's easy when you don't have the top job, easier to say, you did this wrong, what about that? What about this? And so I wanted to really dig deep. And the other part of it is, and I know that I asked really long, methodical, drawn out, dramatic questions. A, I'm a drama queen. But B, I think they're important because if you want that important job, I need to see if you can sit still and take it. Right? It's like I remember doing radio interviews. I remember Ryan Cameron asked me about LeBron James. And in the break before he did it, he said, can I ask you anything? And I said, Ryan, we went out in the hall. I said, what you really want? Just say what you want to say, man. Right? He said, well, can I ask you? I said, you can ask me anything. Now be prepared for the answer you may get because Sharon Reed knows who Sharon Reed is. Let me tell you something. If number one, I'm conflicted because I sleep with who I want to sleep with. Okay. I'm a fully grown woman. And when people told their live rumor, he wasn't even married, but geez, I'm sad to say I'm probably old enough to be his mother. But so it wasn't true, but that wasn't the point. You're not going to get me to say uncle. For years, I didn't discuss it because nobody had the guts to just be face to face and say to me, not that I had a problem with it, because again, I know who I am. And let me tell you something, if I had a baby with an international basketball star, come on now, we've known each other for a little bit. You're not about to shame me. Who are you? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right.
So that whole thing. But at the end of the day, if you want to make your living in the public eye, you have to sit there and have an answer for these things. So yes, I needed to methodically go through the APS cheating scandal. She was the chief prosecutor. And a lot of people still can't forget it. And I got to be honest with you. She had answers. She certainly wasn't squirrely. She leaned in and she defended her position. You vote for who you want to vote for. One thing I will give her credit for on that subject matter was she stood by her guns, but she also left room for at least a regret about an aspect of it. Watch the interview, you see what she says. And I don't think that's a sign of weakness. I think that that is a sign of a leader. You got to know when you need to pivot. change course when you need to have some hindsight. So it's very interesting to me. And I do think that you have to, I don't like approaching interviews, the way that a lot of people do, because I'm just not like that. Doesn't mean I'm better. It just means I'm so curious. I want to know who you are. And I don't want any BS between us, the viewer, the screen. I just want to know who you are. And sometimes you have to take the long way to get there for
Right.
people to see through someone. And through could be good, or it could just
Right.
be, authenticity that's needed before you go and go to the polls.
A couple of comments. Connie Anthony Bates said you was on point, and she is and was on point. No nonsense and well prepared for the interview. Thank you for the comment, Connie. And Mark Melvin said he was rolling film in the studio that day with you and Ryan, and that's when he gained total respect for you. And he said in his Denzel voice, "My girl." All right, shout out to you, Mark.
Yeah, now he's a good guy. And I'll be honest with you. I remember when I first came to town and Big Tigger had me on. And you know how it is when you're the main anchor at a television station. Look, man, somebody comes to you in marketing or something, says they want you over here. We're trying to do
You froze on me, Sharon. Yep, she'll be back, y'all. Just having a few technical difficulties. I'm sure she'll log back in. Let's get her back on. But you're in the middle of our interview with Sharon Reed, doing some outstanding, saying some outstanding. She's coming back on. She is my friend. She's back. She's back.
Okay, it's because people keep calling me. So I do. I remember the station wanted me to go on, and I'm like, cool, whatever, I don't think I met Tigger at the time, and I remember when I showed up, the programming director, who I love, we got into it, right? So I show up with, one of my producers. I'm just there to do an interview. Like I said, I'm going to be Sharon Reed. You can add, first of all, what I would say and did say to my producers, who apparently, unbeknownst to me, were the station and the radio are negotiating on, don't ask her about this. Don't you so that really? Okay, really? Well, what the heck? Well, then why hire somebody if you're so worried? Like, this is ridiculous. We live in a global world. So
Right.
I didn't know any of it. So when I got there, he was like, well, let me talk to you. And we've never had anybody with, and I'm like, I didn't know what he was talking about. But you already give me attitude. So I got a busy day. I just left I'm racing, ripping. I got to go do the news. What the is you talking about? Right. So we kind of got into it, and I was probably a little bit extra. I said, I don't even need to be here. Y'all called me. What the heck? I don't know nothing about this. And that's when he let me know that people have been behind the scenes doing these negotiations. I'm like, don't eat what? So I just think that the best approach is always the authentic approach, whether it's Paul Howard, Fonnie Lewis. One of the things that I liked about interviewing Kasim Reed was not just that I loved his colorful approach. I loved his unapologetic, even when people said his temperament wasn't okay with them. It was authentic. And I liked witnessing that. And I think he did a lot good for this city. And people can make up their mind. I live here and I'm allowed to say that too. But I love that the interviews, the passion, no matter what you believe, was there. And I probably liked that because that's who I am and what I subscribe to. And if you're not proud of who you are, or you're not proud of what you're doing, well, then you should pivot. You should change course. But if you are, then I think you have to be unapologetic. You can be humble. You can be gracious where it's called for. But, you know, at the end of the day, the things we work up in our head are often far worse than what the simple truth is, right? What happens if we admit that some of these people we have statues up to were treasonous fools? Okay? Treasonous fools. You know, there's some reports that, I don't know if it was Jefferson Davis, one of them was found cowering in women's underwear. Okay? So what is that going to do to you if we acknowledge that what you've been taught is not true? What is it going to do to you if we acknowledge the truth? There's no my way, my opinion, your opinion. These aren't opinions. That these monuments went up with a purpose during Jim Crow. What is it going to do to you if we acknowledge that, you know, the United Daughters of the Confederacy set about a plan to lie and rewrite history? That's what they did. That's not a Sharon Reed. That's what they did. They were close to the Klan, and they said, okay, let's make it that we didn't really lose the war. Let's make it that these were heroes. It's just, and they were very successful at that because good people didn't say, what? No. So I just think it's a dangerous thing to be anything other than who you are. And I think Black reporters are needed and Black managers are needed more than ever, because it's tough being the only person who has some political capital to expend in a newsroom and say, that's not right. Not saying that. Can't do that because it's not right. You know you're going to get backlash. You know you're going to get punished. And you know you got to do it anyway. Right? Or you have to report the lie. And I just never been for that, you know?
We're going to do another interview soon. But I wanted to ask you this question. You talked about Joy a little bit earlier, Joy Reid.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's a shame it took this long for, I don't even know if a Black male or not many Black males have had prime time shows. But do you feel like the Black woman journalist is respected enough in what you guys do? I think y'all do a lot on the front lines. Y'all do a great job. But do you feel that respect? Do you feel like you have to go in with a stern, you have to be this way? Because we talk about it on the White House lawn, and we've seen the way he's treated certain female reporters when he responds to their questions. What are your thoughts about how you ladies are respected in this industry?
I mean, you know, it's a tough thing. You know, I was having this discussion with somebody the other day about sexual harassment. Any woman who tells you that and I mean, I haven't had it all. Some of the biggest names in broadcasting trying to put their tongue down my throat. Okay. Ugh. Thank God one blowhart's not on cable news anymore. And I mean, don't even get me started. But that's just the way it was. That doesn't mean it's okay, because these guys, these clowns, these misogynistic, you know what, they killed a lot of careers. They've hardened a lot of people. I don't know. You know, I had a bigot, misogynistic, racist, homophobic general manager that I worked for a number of years. And I remember I sat next to a white gentleman who I liked very much, and I found him to be quite capable. He was older, and we were so opposite, but I liked working with him. He was a decent man. And I remember they do research, and for some reason I was privy to it. And I had been in this television market for a couple of years, not many, and my Q rating was on the rise, right? His was like, he came in at 0. You know, there's that part where nobody knows your name. They just want to see if you're recognizable. It's the lowest standard
Right.
because obviously if you recognize somebody, and then if you like them, that's another notch. And then there's very few people who are a reason to watch. Is that appointment television? Is that man, is that woman going to make you watch? Is it something
Right.
about it? And so after about, 3-4 years, my daughter needs cats. I really can't. I cannot. Okay. But in the back, it's so embarrassing. You a single woman with these, my daughter needs cats. I just really got to stop. But I remember after, you came in and it was 0. And after years, pretty close to 0. And I remember this bigot of a general manager, just discussing races, saying, I'm going to get them. Okay. These cats. And I remember him saying, well, I noticed that for a week or so, they kept giving him the lead story. And normally it would be like we trade off. He had it at 6 or 5 the night before. I have it. And that's it, whatever. Or shows if we're doing all the shows. And so I finally said, I asked the EP, what's up with this? I'm not one of these back. I'm not. Sorry. Those days are over.
Right.
Barbara Walters, who was great and a pioneer, should not have to wait 2 and 3 questions after, Hugh Downs or whoever, Walter, whoever she was sitting next to, asked the question. We're not doing that. I'm just as capable, in fact, more. So she said, well, so-and-so kind of just, the patriarchal figure. Don't play. So that, are we respected? Gee, it's tough, but where there's a will, there's a way. You look at some of the cables and why are all the men in prime and all the women are in the day parts? Get out of here.
Interesting.
Okay? Not
Very
wrong with being in the day part, but really? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's only going to change when you have people who are willing to say, all things equal, this belongs here, that belongs, instead of like the boys club, and then the girls, you're gonna be cute, you're the pretty one, it's exhausting. It really, really is, because what it does is it's not fair to any of us. Sure, and I've been fortunate in my career to make a lot of money, and I earned it. Okay, that's money I earned. Okay, in fact, you probably owe me some from what I brought to your table. And I say that unapologetically, okay? But at the same time, they may get paid more than the women, this and that. But it really gives this false sense of bravado that you are so much better than you are. You're so great. To the little boys out there who think men deserve this and women deserve that, to the girls who think it should be this way, it's really not fair to be graded on a curve to anyone. But anyway,
I will end it with this. I want to end it. It's all serious, but I want to end it with this. You talked about something that, have you binge watched anything during this pandemic?
I'm the worst. My daughter says to me, all you ever do is watch CNN. It's my background noise. It's my company. I got to keep an eye on this, the stock market, my money, whatever it is. And yes, certain things semi-racial. Have I binged? I've watched some documentaries. There's one I pulled up on Hulu about Hillary. But no. And it's really some homework for some other projects that I'm involved in and some work that I'm doing. But I got to be honest with you. I'm so boring. I don't even know if I think I fell asleep, and don't hate me for this, on like the one episode of Power.
Wow.
I can't, you know what I mean?
Wow.
I'm either all in on CNN and that kind of stuff, or I need a timeout and I have to put on TLC or Bravo or OWN. You know what I mean?
Right.
And escape for a minute. It's like my daughter said, I need to get a life, partner.
My partner needs to get a life. Right. You gotta get a life. Tell them, Sharon, where they can find you. Where they can find you at. It's very simple, but just let everybody know where they can
Sharon
find you
Reed
at.
Live. Just go to Sharon Reed Live. And I'm really trying to boost up my YouTube I'm just so behind. I got so many things going on, but I do like to post original content there. But across that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I love. For a while, I was up on those Karen videos. They do quite well. They're very entertaining. I love. If you got any Karen videos, send them my way.
Let
Karen's
the
good for
Karens
your girl.
let the Karens out the bag. They are
That's
very
right. Stay
entertaining.
out and exposed and feeling wounded, but oh well.
Any projects you want to push? I know those interviews you were talking about. Anything else you want to push?
Yeah, I really like it, and I'm kind of doing this partnership thing with the Atlanta Voice, who I love. I love the Black space, I do, because I think it's the frontier and the future. That's where people are going for their news, and I love, love, love the way they run that operation. They got a real hip, young, bright managing editor. I just love them. So we've been talking about mental health, and it's so important. And
Yes.
obviously, it's top of mind with some of what's going on with people who are pretending they're entering the presidential race. But it's such a serious thing, and we've got to talk about it and be intelligent about it and authentic and aware and not crack jokes, because you can't keep getting put upon and not have it affect your mental health. And then it's okay to be born with a chemical imbalance, right?
Right.
But we have to be
Exactly.
supportive. So I'm real
Right.
excited about a partnership. We're kind of, not kind of, but it's planned for early next month. And so that's something that I hope people tune into.
There she is, everybody.
I miss you. You're just such a cute little teddy bear. You're a teddy bear. I love you
Thank you.
guys. I just
Uh,
think you spread such love. You're always smiling because you're just happy,
oh yeah.
decent guys. I just love y'all. Always support you. Always.
And thank you. It's funny. When we first reached out to you, I was like, "Ooh, Sharon. Ooh, that's gonna be tough." But you were way different than everybody painted, and I'm so happy that we made that call for you to come back. And I'm so glad you came. Yeah, yeah. She's our family. Sharon Reed, everybody. We thank you. Got to do that. Y'all have a good day. Thank you, everybody.
Mask
and have
up.
a good time. Matt, please.
Please.
Bye,
Mask
everybody.
up. Bye.